All right, so today we're going to do a Post-Mordheim discussion on my first Mordheim game. My son played Undead, and then I'm playing Witch Hunters. We rolled the Scenario 7 in the campaign section, and that was the hidden treasure. So we have to go into each building and make a 12 roll on 2d6, which is obviously pretty hard. But yeah, so that was, it was a really good first game too, because we're not worried about like combat so much as we are like kind of learning the rules and going through each section. So my son's pretty young, so I had to learn 2 different like war bands, and so inevitably there are certain rules that I missed and accidentally skipped because I'm not familiar with like all the nuances. But overall, I think it was a pretty successful game. The one thing that I thought was interesting is that the dregs on the undead team and the zombies only have a movement of 1 inch per round. Obviously, if you're running, that doubles. But I just thought that was weird. Maybe I'm missing something. So if you know that offhand, feel free to fill me in there, because I felt really bad because I gave him all those. I set up his warband, and most of them didn't get within 6 inches from his starting point. So that kind of sucked. Yeah, so some other things that we had to change about the scenario. The board I made 2 weeks ago is really small. That's something I didn't realize till I started playing it, but overall it did pretty good, but it was a little small. And we didn't have that many buildings to investigate, so the game did end pretty quick, because all we have to do is get the treasure chest off the side of the map. One thing I did change, and I think this is a Frostgrave rule, you can only exit on the side of the board you enter in. So that's something I told him, that you have to exit on the road that you come in on. So I think it's a good example that like anyone can learn this game too. My son's pretty young, he's in 1st grade, and so he was able to kind of follow along with the rules and help remind me on certain things too. So that was pretty nice. Now my daughter wants me to make her a war band, so there might be a Sisters of Sigmar video coming out soon, I guess. In Eric's Hobby Workshops video, he recommended a laser pointer. The laser pointer just kind of eliminates all doubt that you can hit someone, so that was a really good tip. I think we're still on round 2 on this point, because I'm still getting familiar with the rules. But you can see that, yeah, most of my son's guys on the right haven't moved very far, and I already have 3 buildings already investigated at this point. That was kind of unfortunate, but I think it's a learning experience. If you don't know the rules of Mordheim, there's a video in the description, as well as the Mordheim Living Rulebook. The video is really good. Obviously, I didn't make it, but I do recommend. That's how I first learned. And then once you kind of get the gist of how things work, it's a lot easier for you to understand how the book is written. So that video is really helpful. Yeah, another thing that I kind of feel bad about, but I tried to keep my son's models. The miniatures like had exactly what they had on them. So like if it had a mace or an axe, that's what the character could use. That was just an easier way for my son to understand like how to play the game, and what like the limits of his guys were. But none of them had long range weapons. So that's something I'll have to do in my next video, is give them some crossbows so that my son knows that he can shoot, because that was a significant disadvantage. That would have made it a lot more interesting for everyone if you had to hide for cover. All right, so at this point, we had searched every building, and the building in the bottom middle was the one that was left over. So the guy already had my leader model, actually, had discovered that the treasure was there automatically. And so now I just had to get off the board with the treasure. So obviously this would be a lot more involved. The bigger your board would be, you'd have to like swarm in and like kind of steal your guys. But unfortunately, my son was a good sport, but unfortunately, he just could not move fast enough to get to my stuff. You can't really even see it, but his necromancer was behind this flagpole that I crafted in my last video. Yeah, he was there waiting for me to come out. So we had a bit of combat there. So the guy my son just moved, he was hidden behind some stuff. So we did forget him for I forgot him for a couple rounds. And so we allowed my son to kind of skip some things and move him ahead of time. And he was able to take out my archer, my zealot on the top right. So that was a fun moment for him. Luckily, he was a good sport. And then he's playing with a vampire lord. So he actually gets 2 attacks per thing, which is something I forgot to check. Because we didn't really even get into melee combat more than once. So, yeah, that was pretty interesting. I thought there would be, considering that this is such a small map, I think it's mostly got to do with how slow his characters moved, but there wasn't that much melee combat. We basically skipped over that phase up until the end. So yeah, that was kind of unfortunate, but it was a good learning experience. All right, so my leader and the zealot together can move with the treasure chest without half movement. So they got it off the board at the end here. And because of some post-game rolls, the zealot actually became a hero after this. So in my next video this week, I will be upgrading him to like an actual hero model and doing some stuff with that. So that was kind of fun too. All right, so thanks for watching. Why don't you leave a comment? Let me know what you like to give me some feedback, or that's something I enjoy, and I hope a video like this can be used kind of as a platform for people who kind of are still in an isolation bubble, can have a conversation about how some rules work and stuff like that. So thanks for watching. Have a good one.